Last night, on the order of the President of the United States, and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro.
Nicolas Maduro had his chance until he didn't. He effed around and he found out.
This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history.
Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, you know, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. But don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well.
Oh, what an amazing weekend. Many of you probably been scouring the internet, watching all the buzz around the Maduro arrest and more out of Venezuela. And we're going to try to capture all of the comms from this weekend, the foundation behind this amazing event in history, on the elections, oil, China, Russia, and so much more tied to this. Hope we can get it in today. Whew, what a great start to the new year, folks. I mean, really makes sense now why they played sections of Gladiator, the beginning, to let us to know on my signal, let it go. You know, it's amazing. 500,000 followers on And We Know channel on Rumble. We thank you for your support there. One of the reasons we love Rumble is because they allow us to have free speech, unlike YouTube, who's already given us a strike over there. And they don't like it when we talk about medical stuff or health and more. And just want to remind you, they can take me down anytime over there, and Rumble's been good to us. So thank you for your following and your thumbs up buttons over there. Also, Freedom Cruise, to remind you that we have going on March 15th through 22nd, still some spaces available at andweknow.com. We're going to be able to meet and greet each other. We'll have Q&A sessions, and we're going to have several podcasters there. So excited, folks. I'm hoping you'll jump on board. We had so many sign up this past week, and thank you for that. Now, the Bush and Obama spent $3 trillion, sent over 100,000 troops to Afghanistan, and we lost 2,000 folks, Americans, fighting the Taliban, only to find out that Osama bin Laden was in Pakistan. Trump just captured Maduro with no war and zero casualties from the American side. And I wanted to show you, before we get into some of the details, the reaction from the Venezuelans there.
I just want to talk to you, America.
Guys, history is being made in real time. There are hundreds of people here. And tell me, why did you want to be out here?
Well, okay, before I begin, I just want to talk to you, America, and I hope you have your coffee when I tell you this, but these are great news. All eyes on Venezuela. These are historical news. This is history in the making. I mean, my chest, it feels like it's going to explode with joy.
And I want you to see the reaction of the families over on the right side of this.
Maldito.
If you're listening instead of watching, you can imagine hearing the cries of the people. But if you're watching, the tears are flowing. The impact on those people in Venezuela who have been oppressed for so long is absolutely incredible. The passion, the emotion. Tears. Do you guys understand? With all that we're going to talk about the military, the operation, how this all played out, the reaction of the people to the news that Maduro was taken away. It's pretty incredible. Kids can be pretty choked up when you see little kids, especially. these children's lives been destroyed over the years. Children, when they start crying, it reminds me. We had similar reaction in 2016 with my children. We were so worked up about that election and hoping beyond hope that President Trump would defeat the witch Hillary Clinton. Because we knew if she got in, that the world as we know it would be destroyed. I knew that my sons would be sent off to wars in places that we shouldn't be there. And we knew that our own lives as Christians would be destroyed. And there were tears. Here's Pete Hegseth.
I saw the best of America. I saw men and women dedicating their lives to defending our country and to accomplishing that mission. And I just landed here at Joint Base Andrews, had a chance to meet a lot of them firsthand who were involved, walk through the TikTok of what can only be described as the most sophisticated, most complicated, most successful joint special operations raid of all time. I mean, nothing of this size scope when you actually unpack what was done kinetically and non-kinetically, that many people, that many moving parts, that consequential, and they got the job done. And despite any obstacles in front of them, it is incredible to be able to serve such courageous, brave, and skilled Americans. We do right
Mr.
by
Secretary.
them, and President Trump did. He gave them a clear mission, and they finished it.
They finished it, clear mission, and found it pretty amazing if you're looking at your screen. Showing you the extraction part, the helicopter coming in. And SG Anon caught this. Nothing to see here, just the U.S. military extracting Venezuelan President Maduro without being molested by even a single round of anti-aircraft or small arms fire. Coordinated, international, interagency, high-risk, reward military operations aimed squarely at the functional underpinnings of a worldwide shadow state. And you're watching that on your screen play out in real time. All the exercises, all the training that the military goes through to be able to pull something like this off. Kind of reminds me when we hear about the military is the only way. Whew. It's even more powerful. Now, look at this.
Were you listening when Donald Trump said this?
Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have.
It sounds like what he's saying is the United States has the capability of turning off the lights for 1.9 million people in a large Latin American country like that. And of course, I wouldn't believe it if there wasn't a video.
Y después van hacia arriba, ¿sí? Si es por parte de su madre o parte... Boludo, se cortó la luz.
What this tells me is Nicolas Maduro was literally in the dark in his fortress. He probably couldn't find his way to the safe room without lights. It's also why he probably wasn't able to close it. He was feeling around, probably looking for the lever to pull it closed. Couldn't find it.
Couldn't find it. Reminded me of another post. Somebody shared this. Thought we'd pretty interesting. Fellow patriots, I'm being advised actions have created accelerated counteractions. Watch the news outlets. Should the lights go out, please know we are in control. Do not panic. Oh, don't you just love it? I know, folks. Some people are like, hey, we don't want to hear about Q anymore. A lot of folks still do, especially on this channel. But I've watched video after video of especially guys screaming at the camera saying that this Q operation's designed to wake people up. And, Dave, President Trump, you need to hurry up. Enough of these games of waking people up. Reminder when you see things like that. I get it. I hear the frustration all the time. But imagine where we'd be had President Trump never stepped in and the Q board never divulged all the information to us on how this has to play out. Also, reminder, we're taking decades, if not centuries, of evil fortress that was established with a foundation deeper than we can imagine. And we've got folks who are not ready for this, that had to be prepped. And we're going to be taken to the precipice before it's reaching the end point. Now, I'm going to show you specific things were said about this operation to take Maduro down. Hold on a second.
Prior to December 2021, my husband Larry was a healthy, active man with no health concerns or underlying conditions. He was a college lecturer and a successful musician, but that was all taken away from him on the 15th of December 2021. That was the day he received a COVID Pfizer booster injection in Oma Leisure Centre.
Well, that heartbreaking story from Larry Lowe's wife. She's talking because it's too hard for him to speak. Just because you didn't react immediately to the COVID jab doesn't mean you are in the clear. Mysterious symptoms and even deaths are surfacing months, sometimes years later. So you look at this, the VAERS reports show way more COVID vaccine injuries than something as common as Tylenol. And get this, experts estimate only 1% of cases are even reported. Plus, shedding means you could be exposed even if you skip the shot. Now, mRNA vaccines could be in our livestock, even organic. Why are mRNA vaccines different? It's the spike proteins. These proteins meant to train your immune system can interact with blood vessels and platelets, potentially causing clotting or inflammation. Overwhelming evidence shows millions are affected. So what's the solution? It starts with your gut. A healthy gut microbiome is the number one factor in fixing damage from vaccines, antibiotics, and the standard American diet. And the best way to boost gut diversity is kimchi. Studies like one from the National Institute of Health show kimchi's incredible power to restore gut health. But let's be real, eating kimchi daily isn't easy. That's where Bright Course Kimchi 1 comes in. Delivers 900 probiotic strains, live enzymes, and antioxidants in one convenient capsule. No mess, no taste. It supports digestion, energy, metabolism, immunity, and more. The And We Know listeners can get 25% off Kimchi 1 with code AUK at mybrightcore.com/AUK or call 888-317-9941 for up to 50% off plus free shipping today.
Last night, on the order of the President of the United States and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd and was...
Now remember, for those listening in, this is the general that came back in. President Trump loves him. Raising Cain. Oh, yeah.
The culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that, frankly, only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk to you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose, to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters.
Oh, yeah. I just love it. Makes me miss the military and the times that we had together. Putting these, the enemy in its place. It's also a reminder to all those and other nations that think they're going to harbor any ill will towards the United States. Stand by, because you're going to be next. We're going to get to that in a moment. Here's some more.
It just was the right time to do it. We had to do it because it's a war. We're losing 300,000 people a year. We don't lose that much in a war. Okay, if you look. And we had to do it. But he was in a house that was more like a fortress than a house. It had steel doors. It had what they call a safety space, where it's, solid steel all around. He didn't get that space closed. He was trying to get into it, but he got bum rushed so fast that he didn't get into that. We were prepared. We had, massive blowtorches and everything else that you need to get through that steel, but we didn't need it. He didn't make it to that area of the house.
Nope, he didn't make it. Sure didn't. And so we're going to show you some foundation on what's going on behind the scenes and what's going to play out with Venezuela in a moment. But wanted to show you a couple more reactions.
States military into Venezuela last night to kidnap Maduro and his wife to somewhere. We don't know where they are. We don't know if they're alive. And now Trump has announced that the U.S. is going to temporarily take over control and operations of Venezuela.
White liberals and...
Yeah. If you're not looking at your screen, the lady that's all upset that Maduro's been taken by President Trump because we can't stand President Trump. We've got Trump derangement syndrome. Oh, if you could see your screen and see what she looks like. Anyway. Let's get the reaction.
Take over control and operations of Venezuela.
White liberals in America are complaining about Nicolas Maduro, while Venezolanos in Venezuela are out celebrating that their dictator is gone. If this doesn't tell you how evil and disturbed white liberals in America are, I don't know what will. They're willing to allow an entire country to be exploited as long as it fits their political agenda and goes against Trump. Think about that. Nicolas Maduro publicly rigged elections, killed his own people, had actual re-education camps, made anybody who opposed him disappear. And this is who they're defending now. Believe me, I was worried when Trump said that the United States would oversee the transition of power in Venezuela. But here's a reality that no one wants to admit. Maduro didn't just destroy Venezuela. He destroyed the entire system of checks and balances. He replaced the courts, institutions, everything with loyalists. This isn't one bad leader. This is a government gutted from within. Because of this, if we don't step in, the people who committed the corruption will be the exact same ones choosing who investigates it. The power is not going to return to the people. It'll just rotate to another loyalist from the same corrupt machine. But when these people say stay out, they're not saying stay out because it benefits Venezuelans or they care about what happens to them, because clearly Maduro was the worst thing that could have happened to him. Maduro was getting rich while starving his own people. A credible transition isn't about America controlling Venezuela. It's about preventing a total collapse. It's about less violence, fewer mass migrations, and giving Venezolanos a chance to stay in the country they love instead of being forced to flee from it. Scrutinize everything. Go ahead. Absolutely. I encourage it. But pretending that walking away fixes anything, that's how failed states stay failed states.
That's pretty cool. That was posted by Elon to let everybody know what was going on out there. And so look at the celebration. You got Spain, Madrid, Venezuela, Times Square, Miami, New York, and Argentina. All celebrating. But no matter how much they celebrate, how many millions of people are excited, you're going to have the mainstream media do all they can to make everybody feel like it was the wrong thing to do. Now we're going to have an explanation about Venezuela. This is a Jack Ryan clip. It's been going viral amid the capturing of Nicolas Maduro.
What would you assume is the most major threat on the world stage? Anybody, just call it out. You don't have to raise your hand.
Definitely Russia.
Definitely Russia. That's confident. I like it. Who says Russia? Anybody agree with her? Hands? Okay, great. Who else?
China.
Stop yelling at me, but China is a good answer. Anybody? Who else? China?
North Korea?
North Korea. Any North Korea takers? And Venezuela? Anybody? No? Oh, yeah. One guy in the back. A little worried about Venezuela. Everybody's cool with Venezuela? No threat? Okay. Let me ask you this. Which one of these places can claim to have the largest oil deposit on the planet? More than Saudi? More than Iran? Wow. Okay. What about things like gold? More than all the mines in Africa combined? The fact is that Venezuela is arguably the single greatest resource of oil and minerals on the planet. So, why is this country in the midst of one of the greatest humanitarian crises in modern history? Let's meet President Nicolas Reyes. After rising to power on a wave of nationalist pride, in a mere 6 years, this guy has crippled the national economy by half. He has raised the poverty rate by almost 400%. Luckily for the rest of us, who's running against him? This is Gloria Benalde. Now, Gloria is a history professor turned activist. She's running against him on a social justice platform and on the strength of, in my humble opinion, just analyst predictions as of today have the chances of Venezuela's total economic collapse at 87%. On the news, they'll call it a crisis. But on the world stage, they'll call it a failed state. If you've never heard that term, other examples of a failed state in recent history are Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. And if that's not bad enough news for you, well, Venezuela is also the only one of these places within 30-minute range from the U.S. of next-gen nuclear missiles. You will not hear about any of this on the news because the biggest players on the world stage do not want you to. To them, unstable governments are nothing more than the greatest of opportunities. So, Russia, China, can never be the most major threat until countries like Venezuela leave the door open to our very own backyard.
I think now you understand why that's being shared throughout social media from a movie. Whew, pretty interesting, huh?
Hi there. Are you an American or other first worlder with democracy privilege who's all of a sudden very, very concerned about the United States taking the oil of Venezuela? Well, let me tell you something. Fear not, because Iran and Cuba have been receiving free Venezuelan oil for decades in exchange of protecting the dictator that has been exiling, killing us, and disappearing us for 26 years. So please, you should be more concerned about the dictator that is killing us, exiling us, and disappearing us than the United States taking our oil. We are not concerned about that. So why are you concerned about that? Be concerned about the imperial powers of Iran and Russia who are already in Venezuela. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. You're starting to get the truth out. All this information's floating across social media. Again, you have to show them. The people have to wake up to what's really going on behind the scenes. Let's get more into that. Here we go.
States need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry.
Well, so oil comes up and meet the press, right? Mainstream media have to go on the attack mode because they're paid off by the deep state and the evil ones. But let's hear from Marco Rubio.
We don't need to. First of all, let me go back up. We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. Right. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Have specific oil companies?
We also want to see that oil and the proceeds from it. Hold on. We want to see the oil proceeds of that country benefit the people of Venezuela. Why have 8 million people left Venezuela? 8 million, the single largest mass migration probably in modern history, left Venezuela since 2014 because all the wealth of that country was stolen to the benefit of Maduro and his cronies in the regime, but not to the benefit of people of Venezuela. You know how destabilizing 8 million migrants is? The number one fear that Brazil has, that Colombia has, that all these countries in the region have about what's happening in Venezuela and our involvement is they're afraid of another mass migration event. That's what they fear. This is deeply destabilizing stuff. It's not going to continue to happen. They are not going to come from outside of our hemisphere, destabilize our region in our own backyard, and us have to pay the price for it. Not under President Trump. Number one, most of the experts that people have on television, I watch these experts and it's clown hour. Okay, these are people that have focused their entire career on the Middle East or some other part of the world because that's where all the action was. Very few of them know anything about Venezuela or the Western Hemisphere. Venezuela looks nothing like Libya. It looks nothing like Iraq. It looks nothing like Afghanistan. It looks nothing like the Middle East other than the Iranian agents that are running through there plotting against America. Okay, these are Western countries with long traditions among their at a people-to-people and cultural level and ties to the United States. So there's nothing like that. So I think people need to stop ascribing the apples and oranges here, the apples of the Middle East to the oranges of the Western Hemisphere.
But do you...
Number two, this is about the national interest of the United States. And what I'm confident of is we are in a safer and better place because we're taking it seriously. The alternative would have been to leave Maduro there as an indicted drug trafficker, illegitimate president, running the country, open invitation for all of our adversaries to do whatever they want against the United States from Venezuela. That was not going to continue. The alternative would have been to allow a drug trafficker to continue to use national territory and elements of nation-state power to further drug trafficking organizations. Read the indictment. This guy used the levers of their security apparatus not to arrest drug traffickers, but to cooperate and facilitate the trafficking of drugs for the purpose of getting them into the United States. And that's going to stop.
She couldn't get a word in. He was like, hold on a second. Number two. And he just kept moving on. And there's a lot packed in that. As quick as he was speaking, folks, he's talking about a guy who wasn't really elected. We're going to get into that. A guy that was a narco-terrorist, drugs. Guy had ties to other nations, right? We heard in the beginning, other nations use that as leverage with that oil to have power and be, right on the outskirts of our country. So Captain Kyle showed this when Maduro was taken in, when you have 4 outfit changes in 17 hours. If you see this? Does this look like a man who's being held against his will? Look at thumbs up. He's wearing a blue hoodie. And then in this other one, he's wearing like some type of outfit here. And he's wearing another outfit with a black jacket on the right side. And I don't know. You'll soon realize that Maduro asked for this to happen, and it was part of a larger operation, said Joshua Reed, redpills.tv. I'm going to get into this. SG Anon's take on how the Patriots are in control. You know, we had a great interview the other day for these wave watches. The power of frequency. I've learned so much about it. And I wanted to let you know, it's in the description box below, the Wave Watch. Improve your health with sound frequencies. And I couldn't believe it at first, but it's actually been working. Here's a soundbite from Linda Bamber Olson, Wave Watch inventor.
Because we're not doing that. We went more the direction of pills. And so that's why people have a little harder time realizing that their body can absorb frequencies through their skin and their bones. They don't have to hear it. So that was so important for me to be able to do that because I'm a deaf person. I'm completely deaf in one ear, and I've had trouble with hearing my whole life. And so I wanted a tool that I could use, that I didn't have to hear.
Oh, wow. Wow. I know a lot. Yeah, so many folks. I met her on the cruise, and I tell you what, we had several folks that had the watch on, and we were testing them out. My back started feeling much better. My best friend actually put it on, had a hard time bowling. His left knee was in a lot of pain. And next thing you know, he was bowling. He bowled 4 games. He said, I could go 10 more. He couldn't even believe it. He normally wraps everything up. He wraps his hand up and more. And he's like, what's going on? This thing is absolutely amazing. They have them in special colors like rose gold, also graphite. They improve your sleep, reduce stress, fight pain. They boost energy. And they are beautiful watches also. So when you use them, you can change to so many different frequencies for your brain health, for your pain, for sleep, and so much more. I encourage you to go check it out, folks, in the description box below. Go check it out. You will be absolutely amazed and reclaim your peace. So, folks, I found it pretty amazing. The U.S. Department of Labor put this out on social media. Patriots are in control, and we're never giving up our fight to put America first. Patriots in control. SG Anon said, if you're not paying close attention, you'll miss key details. Maduro isn't against Trump. The two are on the same side. Ooh, interesting take from SG Anon. He said, yes, I know, that sounds ridiculous until you zoom out. Maduro had one of the fabled red folders in the 2019-2021 timeframe. These red folders have long been believed to be publicly visible confirmations of active red DEFCON 1 wartime conditions inside related nations. Trump, Putin, Xi, and Kim also had red folders publicly displayed at differing points during the same 2-year time period. Trump's red folder made a dramatic appearance in the public domain on January 6, 2021. Now add, who set up shop in Venezuela a half century ago and has been using it as a South American secure ops headquarters to coordinate crimes so vast in scope and number that it is impossible to describe them properly through a keyboard? The intelligentsia community, granddaddied regionally by the CIA, Shin Bet, MI6, and KGB Cuban mafia junctions. What has Maduro been doing by posturing as though Venezuela will take on the U.S. military? Frightening and confusing every single paramilitary and or intelligence faction actor hiding in the shadows of the background control structure they've meticulously crafted in country. By blending warlords and political freaks with ordinary people and throwing enormous sums of money into the fray while reducing international purchasing power for the nation. How do you think Maduro managed to stay alive all those years before he came to power? Don't bite the hand. Question mark. Don't bite the hand. Did he like living as a second-class citizen inside his own power circle? Did he like living with the knowledge he could be patsied at any time if his usefulness to the real rulers of Venezuela ran out? Who would then loot and sell off what remains of his government's wealth and treasure to the highest black market bidder? Do you think Maduro was unaware that in the event the above happened, there would not be a single entity on earth that could avenge him? Now add, do you think his price to then be the Judas goat for the entrenched deep state power nodes on the ground inside his own country was more or less than 30 pieces of silver? What about you'll spend time in an American prison, but you'll live? Can you imagine, if given the chance, how much incriminating material Maduro can bring to the worldwide table regarding rogue U.S. government deep state operations in Venezuela, South America? Now, while all this was playing out, we had the privilege of watching Maduro touch down in Manhattan via chopper because he was brought into New York, out of all places. Heavy security showdown, New York City, local police department, federal agencies actually blanketed the Manhattan heliport as they brought Maduro in from upstate. What's even more interesting with all of the pictures that were going out from Dan Scavino, Nicolas Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima after he was captured. This was posted at 11:26 by Dan Scavino. Well, you go to 11:26 on the keyboard, it says, it's happening. A clean house is very important. Well, we know a clean house is very important comes from the drop where he had all of the military standing with President Trump in the Oval Office. Military. Dr. Jan Halper Hayes says, please read so you understand the significance that follows in the next picture. The picture of a list of people. Breaking. Venezuela's former chief of national intelligence, Hugo Carvajal, has officially released every U.S. senator who is in on the Venezuela list of politicians who have been receiving millions of dollars in kickbacks from the Maduro regime and Venezuelan drug trafficking organizations that make up his government in exchange for using their government positions and influence to undermine President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's ongoing war with these narco-terrorists. Every one of these senators is guilty of providing aid and comfort to the enemy during a time of war and has the blood of their fellow American citizens, hundreds of thousands of whom die of drug overdoses every year at the hands of these criminal drug trafficking organizations that bring deadly drugs into our country on their hands. May each and every one of them be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and may their names forever live in shame for their treason. Below is every U.S. senator on the Venezuelan list. So this list is making its rounds. Lisa Murkowski, Alaska. Mark Kelly, Democratic, Arizona. Ruben Gallego, Democrat, Arizona. Alex Padilla, Democrat, California. Adam Schiff, no surprise. Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut, Democrat. Who else do we know on here? Dick Durbin, Democrat, Illinois. Chuck Grassley, Republican, Iowa. Johnny Ernst, Republican, Iowa. Mitch McConnell, Republican, Kentucky. Rand Paul, Republican, Kentucky. Who else do we know on here? Elizabeth Warren. Amy Klobuchar. Going down the list just to see. Cory Booker, we know who that is. Chuck Schumer, of course. Kirsten Gillibrand, Tom Tillis, Republican, North Carolina. And, pretty shocking, some of these, right? Here's President Trump.
Judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious, because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela, and that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States.
So they're going to take over the leadership of Venezuela until the right folks are in, the duly elected folks anyway. You know, while all this was playing out, President Trump put out some interesting drops on Truth Social. One of them was eagles going down with an eagle and killing birds by the millions with these windmills. Well, it's interesting because eagle happens to be the U.S. Secret Service name, supposedly for Clinton, Bill Clinton himself. Remember, Hillary is Evergreen and Renegade is Obama. Eagles going down. Well, that means that Clinton has some ties to old Maduro, doesn't he? What U.S. president was nicknamed Eagle by the U.S. Secret Service? Fly, eagles, fly. Fly. Paul Florent says Caracas was a major CIA hub. Venezuela is the home of election fraud. Venezuela and the Bush family built a vast drug empire there. Venezuela helped build Hezbollah into what it is. It is not a coincidence that Maduro's regime fell at the same time the Iranian regime is falling in Iran. You're watching a well-oiled military plan to completely take down the deep state. I promise the Bush family and all other deep state families are freaking out. Ignore the panicans. This is the deep state being toppled before your eyes. Dr. Jan Halper-Hayes adds, if you're focusing on arrest, you are missing what is being done. Hold this thought. If our judicial system is messed up, then why would we use it when we have other ways of gutting the guilty? Arresting someone is a long, laborious process with no guarantees. Why would Trump even consider using our judicial system? Circumventing it with ways to humiliate and destroy ultimately eliminates the players. Arrests give us vindication. Seeing someone punished helps us to hold on to our ideal of law and order. Prison gives us satisfaction, but it isn't about us. It's about our need to see justice served according to our definition. It is about exposing the root. It is about eliminating the rot most expeditiously. And remember, President Trump put this out on Truth Social on November 23rd, 2025, not too long ago. If your justice system has been corrupted, how do you bypass the corruption? Answer: military tribunals. Never forget others that were affected by Venezuela. Justice for Laken Riley. Allison Phillips. Laken Riley's mother, describing through tears how an illegal from Venezuela should have never been here and took her daughter's life.
We also want to thank President Trump for the promises he made to us. He said he would secure our borders and that he would never forget about Laken. And he hasn't. He's a man of his word. We trust that he will fight for the American people. Most importantly, I want to thank our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, because without his sacrifices, Laken's story would have ended on that horrific day that she was taken from us. But because of him, we can continue living knowing that we will see Laken again.
He made that promise. And he kept it. Somebody that said that President Trump never kept his promise. I'm going to show you this clip from 2020. Chuck Schumer criticizing Trump for not bringing an end to Maduro.
He brags about all these things he wants to do or is doing, but his actions belie his words. Maybe the best metaphor was his claim to bring democracy to Venezuela. There was a big policy there. It flopped. If the policy was working, Juan Guaido wouldn't be in the balcony here. He'd be in Venezuela. He'd be sitting in the president's palace, or at least waging a fight to win. He's here. And the president brags about his Venezuela policy? Give us a break. He hasn't brought an end to the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began.
Oh, Chucky. Huh.
This was not an action that required congressional approval. In fact, it couldn't require congressional approval because this was not an invasion. This is not an extended military operation. This is a very precise operation that involved a couple of hours of action. It was a very delicate operation, too. It was one that required all these conditions to be in place at the right time in the right place. You couldn't afford leaks. We couldn't afford anything out there that would have endangered the mission and gotten people killed or killed off the mission and the optionality. We didn't even know if the mission was going to happen. How can you notify something you're not even sure if it can happen? Because in order for it to happen, you needed to have weather conditions in place. He needed to be at the right place at the right time. We needed to have forces prepared to go. There were a lot of factors in place. It was a trigger-based operation. But you can't notify that, number one, because you don't even know if it's going to happen, if those conditions will ever align. And number two, you can't risk it being disclosed. But this was not an attack on Venezuela. This was a law enforcement function to capture an indicted drug trafficker. And of course, we needed the Department of War to support it because they do have anti-aircraft missiles that could shoot down those helicopters.
But will you?
We had to take down radars. We had to take down those anti-air elements on the way in and on the way out. And that's what this was limited to.
But will you seek congressional approval for any further action in Venezuela or the region?
Well, we will seek congressional approval for actions that require congressional approval. But otherwise, they will get congressional notification. And this is not an operation that required congressional approval. In fact, this is an operation akin to what virtually every single president for the last 40 years has conducted. The difference is that when it's Donald Trump, all these Democrats go bonkers.
That's right. Democrats go bonkers. They go crazy. How you didn't get congressional approval to take Maduro in? What about Obama dropping bombs everywhere and Biden doing stuff and Clinton's doing whatever they wanted? They didn't need all their permission. We got a laundry list of those. You guys know about them. General Flynn, is everybody paying attention yet? The world just changed course. It's not simply about energy, but also about access and control. The Panama Canal must be controlled by the United States. Remember that? Because who was running the show with the Panama Canal before all this, folks? China. The Caribbean and all the key straits in and out of the Gulf of America must be controlled by the United States. The financial markets and global wealth must be controlled by the United States. Access to beachfront property that Venezuela afforded to China, Russia, Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, and nasty drug cartels must be controlled by the United States. Guess what? That just happened without the loss of one soldier. Remember that Q post 2536, folks. I'm showing it to you now. The world is about to change. It's a reminder of what General Flynn just told us. Venezuela currently has 303 billion barrels of crude oil reserves, which Trump says the U.S. now controls. Oil prices are trading at $57 a barrel, making Venezuela's total reserves worth $17.3 trillion. Even if the U.S. sells this oil for half of the market rate, that's still $8.7 trillion. In other words, in 12 hours, the U.S. has gained control of oil reserves worth more than the entire GDP of all countries in the world, aside from the U.S. and China. That's 4 times larger than the GDP of Japan. Most people do not realize how much the world just changed. Oil markets will react to this news for the first time. The next few days will be critical.
As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country.
They're going to help out. It's going to work out for everyone. It's going to be pretty amazing. What else do we have? It might be Cuba next.
Secretary Rubio mentioned Cuba yesterday.
Kill a lot of people, yeah.
Secretary Rubio mentioned Cuba yesterday in his remarks. Does the U.S. have a plan to do similar action in Cuba?
Because of Venezuela. Now they won't have that money coming in. They won't have the income coming in. You know, a lot of Cubans were killed yesterday. You know that. A lot of Cubans were killed.
Do you know how many does the administration know?
There was a lot of death on the other side. No death on our side. But there was a lot of death on the other side, unfortunately. But a lot of Cubans were killed yesterday, trying to protect him.
A lot of Cubans taken out when they took Maduro. There could be another plan in place.
Let's go bonkers.
Is the Cuban government the Trump administration's next target, Mr. Secretary? Very quickly.
Well, the Cuban government is a huge problem. Yeah, the Cuban government is a huge problem. First of all,
so is that a yes?
Cuba, but I don't think people fully appreciate. I think they're in a lot of trouble. Yes, I'm not going to talk to you about what our future steps are going to be and our policies are going to be right now in this regard, but I don't think it's any mystery that we are not big fans of the Cuban regime, who, by the way, are the ones that were propping up Maduro. His entire internal security force, his internal security apparatus is entirely controlled by Cubans. One of the untold stories here is how, in essence, you talk about colonization, because I think you said Dulce Rodriguez mentioned that. The ones who have sort of colonized, at least inside the regime, are Cubans. It was Cubans that guarded Maduro. He was not guarded by Venezuelan bodyguards. Right. He had Cuban bodyguards.
Oh, boy. I bet you meet the press. They were hoping they'll probably never bring him back. He just keeps dropping one truth bomb after another. And wait till we get to the truth, folks. President Trump dropping all types of comms right after they brought Maduro in on the 2020 election and the Smartmatic Dominion voting machines. And a reminder of Sidney Powell, what she told us a long time ago about Venezuela and their control over the elections. Boy, the election fraud's probably going to start coming out. Oh, what an amazing year this is going to be. Let's hear from Mike.
It's that time of year where we're supposed to look back at the past year and look at things we want to change and then set new goals for the new year. But have you ever thought about it that God has goals for you? But we're going to call them plans, because what he says he's going to do, he is going to do. You know, the children of Israel were in captivity in Babylon. They had lost their homeland, no hope for the future. And in the middle of that, God says to them, as I believe he says to us, forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing, and now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. And those very places that look like dry, arid wastelands, places of no hope, whether it's family, relationship, job, business, the country, that God is always doing a new thing, and he is bringing a river of life underneath this arid place, and he's going to do a new thing. He is doing a new thing. And our prayer is that we can all perceive what he is doing. 2026 is going to be a great year. And welcome to the Great Awakening.
That's Mike, Hunter's Blend Coffee right there for you guys, folks. You can support him, Hunter's Blend Coffee, in the description box below. Just click on that link. Shop Coffee, Shop America, and their products are absolutely amazing. I happen to drink their decaf coffee. It's absolutely amazing. Locally roasted specialty coffee for freedom-loving Americans. They buy the top 6% of specialty coffee beans, roast with precision in small batches, ship the locally roasted coffee fresh to your door. They support organizations and causes that are near and dear to the hearts of many freedom-loving Americans, such as pro-life, youth shooting sports, veterans, hunting and conservation, patriot, and anti-sex trafficking. Check them out in the description box now. Now, folks, President Trump posting after Maduro's taken in. Did Tim Walz really have Democrat Melissa Hortman assassinated? Wow. So we've been talking about it. President Trump is truthing that out now. Remember, she was the one that was the lone voice of all the corruption going on there in Minnesota. Also, he said Pennsylvania receives back almost 1 million more mail-in ballots than it sent out, and a witness testifies that non-election personnel uploading USB devices to voting machines over 24 times during the 2020 election. Man, Trump's posting all this about the corruption in the states and the Biden administration. All the voter fraud, Tim Walz and Melissa Hortman and more. He also posted this, Wall Street Apes. Senator Trey Stewart says Democrats began creating kickback schemes during the Barack Obama admin, and it has continued into the Biden admin and goes on with Democrat governors. He says they all absolutely financially benefit and they get kickbacks. Fraud by design. Starts at the top. The Biden administration showing you these elections and how they're rigged. As a matter of fact, you guys probably didn't realize this. Maduro was never really the president. He lost badly. And Mundo Gonzalez had 67% of the vote. Maduro only had 30%, but he went in there and took it over anyway. He lost badly. Then he used his cartel army to violently take power. And the liberals are on social media doing everything they can to put a stop to it. It's interesting that the Democrats sided with Iran, and they side with Haiti, and they sided with China, and they side with Mexico, and Canada and Somalia, and now they're siding with Venezuela. No matter the dispute, they just hate America. But I tell you what, this voting machine stuff is going to expose even more so. You think there's a lot of Democrats out there? Very few in comparison to real human beings.
This is a message for my American friends watching the news today in English. There is a serious inaccuracy in the coverage. Venezuela is not undergoing a regime change. Venezuela already has a democratically elected president, Edmundo Gonzalez. He is the president. Nicolás Maduro is not the president. He never was. He stole the last election and led a criminal organization linked to terrorism and drug trafficking, El Cartel de los Soles. And today, thanks to the vision and courage of the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the decisive leadership of the President Donald Trump, and the actions of Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the United States has finally recognized a fundamental truth. Protecting our hemisphere from terrorism, drug cartels, and authoritarian ideologies is a matter of national security.
Sure is. All these elections were playing out. Even back systematic Dominion voting machines. They've been manipulating elections as far back as 2006.
Antonio Mujica and his partner Alfredo Anzola received a small business loan from the Venezuelan government only months before the recall election. These corporate registration documents from Venezuela show the Venezuelan government owned 28% of the stock of another company they started, Bizta, which adapted voting software for the Smartmatic machines in the 2004 elections. The same document shows a Chavez government minister, Omar Montillo, was on the board of directors. The Chavez government gave Bizta, Smartmatic, and another company a $91 million contract to run voting machines for the 2004 election. The next year, the owners of Smartmatic, primarily owned by Venezuelan businessmen, bought Sequoia, one of the top electronic voting system companies in the United States, for $16 million. Smartmatic is a labyrinth of international holding companies owned by Venezuelan businessmen. Smartmatic Group NV of Curaçao, Netherlands, Antilles owns Smartmatic International BV of Amsterdam, Netherlands, owns Smartmatic Corporation of Florida, which bought Sequoia Voting Systems of California, USA. When Smartmatic bought the U.S. voting machine companies, the U.S. government did not review the sale. Many experts say those voting machines were manipulated in Venezuela to give President Hugo Chavez a victory. Exit polls done by the U.S. firm Penn, Schoen and Berland had Chavez losing 41% to 59%. But the next day, Chavez declared victory, reversing the score, saying he won 59% of the vote.
Everything was computed in the favor of the government.
Been happening for a while. And Sidney Powell was out there talking about this. Remember? She actually posted finally to Gunnar Engman, who said its official assistant AG Harmeet Dillon files legal action to force Governor Tim Walz and Minnesota officials to release the state's voter rolls. And then I caught this when it comes to all the election and stuff. She was telling us, and I thought it was pretty interesting when I went to her X. She actually follows And We Know. I was pretty excited about that. She's got 1 million followers. Author of License to Lie, Exposing Corruption, DOJ. So glad if she watches some of these shows. It's really an honor.
I can hardly wait to put forth all the evidence we have collected on Dominion, starting with the fact it was created to produce altered voting results in Venezuela for Hugo Chavez, and then shipped internationally to manipulate votes for purchase in other countries, including this one. It was funded by money from Venezuela and Cuba, and China has a role in it also. We have staggering statistical evidence. We have staggering testimony from witnesses, including one who was personally in briefings when all of this was discussed and planned, beginning with Hugo Chavez and how it was designed there, and then saw it happening in this country. As soon as the state shut down on election night and stopped counting, those are the states where the most egregious problems occurred. We also need to look at, and we're beginning to collect evidence on the financial interests of some of the governors and secretaries of state who actually bought into the Dominion systems to line their own pockets by getting a voting machine in that would either make sure their election was successful or they got money for their family from it. Well, for fraud this serious, I think even if the states are stupid enough to go ahead and certify the votes where we know the machines were operating and producing altered election results, then they will be set aside by the fraud also. I mean, we are talking about hundreds of thousands of votes. President Trump won this election in a landslide.
That's all coming out. Remember the pictures, clear states without voter ID requirements 16 times more likely to offer welfare benefits to illegal immigrants than states requiring ID. Dems are importing and paying illegals for votes because they probably think those machines are going to be taken down one day. Who knows? But a little bit more on what's going on with the Maduro.
China sent a team to shake hands with Maduro. 3 hours later, America put him in handcuffs.
Can you believe it? They waited. China came in. 3 hours later, when China's there with Maduro, Maduro's taken in.
An overnight success that took 5 years to build. Let me show you how. In 2020, America called Maduro a drug lord, not a president, a criminal. They said he used cocaine like a weapon to hurt Americans on purpose. They put a price on his head, $15 million, then $25 million, then $50 million. They didn't use tax money. They used his own stolen cash. The trap was set. They just needed the right moment. 2024, Venezuela votes. Maduro tries to cheat again. Same trick he always uses. But this time the people were ready. 600,000 volunteers, regular people. They took photos of every vote count slip. They got 83% of them. The math was clear. Maduro lost big time. The other guy got 67%. Maduro got 30%. When Maduro said he won, the world saw the lie. The woman who led the fight won the Nobel Peace Prize. She became too famous to kill. Russia had big weapons in Venezuela, missiles, bombers. On the night America came, those weapons stayed quiet. Why? Russia is stuck in Ukraine. They can't fight 2 wars. And Maduro owned them billions. He couldn't pay. A new leader who might pay, that works for Russia. So they yelled about it, but did nothing. China, same story. They gave him $60 billion, and he stopped paying them back. When America blocked his oil ships, China went quiet. No ships, no loans, no help. They figured maybe a new guy will help pay us back. January 3rd, 2026. China sends a big team to meet Maduro. Xi's personal guy. They talk about friendship, partnership, brotherhood. Maduro says thank you. 3 hours later, the lights go out. American helicopters over the city, explosions everywhere. Maduro is grabbed, put on a plane, gone. The Chinese team is still there. They watched the whole thing. China sent a handshake. America sent helicopters.
Yeah.
Maduro thought oil would protect him forever. He thought Russia would save him. China would save him. But Russia was busy. China wanted their money back. And 600,000 Venezuelans took pictures of his lies. America didn't overthrow a president. They grabbed a drug lord who stole a country. His friends talked. America acted. The difference could not be more clear.
How about that? Information continued to flow in. And, they had the little protesters out there hours after Maduro was taken in. I just wanted to show you this.
Riddle me this, Batman. Explain to me how, after Trump goes into Venezuela in the middle of the night, a couple of hours later, in New York, you have an organized march with thousands of people with banners, signs, flags, and the signs are all matching. They've all been printed. They were at the same print press. Who's working overtime? Who's setting this up? Are these guys paid? Like, there is no way that you can get all these people and have all these signs overnight. I'm sorry, and not even a couple of hours. These people were out in the morning. Trump was going to Venezuela at 2 or 3 in the morning. And these people were out like, what, 7, 8, 9? Organized? Bro, who's doing this? This is, I'm sorry, this is not organic. Not one freaking bit is this organic. And they were all over Times Square. Like, look at this. Look at these signs. Perfect. All matching. Listen, if they were handwritten, fine. But they're printed. And they have long banners as well. Look at this. This is great.
Shows how organized they are, and they prepare for all these things, and they pay these people off. Yeah. Wanted to show you a few more things before we go to prayer. One is just Marco Rubio and his sharing of what President Trump has done.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States. And the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy, but instead he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And, but I think the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not, generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody, but don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well.
Ooh, so powerful. And he kind of sent a reminder there. I'm going to show you on the screen this visual for those looking, as a young boy, so excited about Venezuela in the future and about what has just played out. Imagine what he's heard and what he's felt for so many years, and now the tears are flowing. So Marco Rubio told us something as a reminder. President Trump doesn't play games. He wants to genuinely sit down with folks and have conversations and try to work things out without loss of life. But we can never forget that the reason President Trump did all of this in the first place, became the leader of the free world, is for our children, for our children's children, for their future. Realizing more and more what was needed for years and years of planning and years to execute. To know that our Heavenly Father is guiding, directing His hand, so that not only the United States could feel some relief from the slavery and bondage that we've been under, but many others can sense some relief also. As you're looking at your screen, there's a man praying with his family over Venezuela. And we have been praying, folks, for many years now on this channel. Many of you praying, hundreds and thousands, if not millions, in prayer daily, for the protection of those that are on the front lines, those that are holding the truth, not only for our nation, but for other nations. Their Heavenly Father so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in Him shall not perish, but have everlasting life. And that's the most important part of all, our salvation.
For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you once again for your guiding hand and your mercy over so many people and so many nations across this earth. Thank you for your guiding hand of our U.S. military to help bring a sense of relief over another nation. We know that many other things are playing out behind the scenes that we'll never see or understand. But we certainly do thank you for the answer to prayer of taking evil ones down. We know that the most important thing is the salvation of the people, that they would, before they take their last breath, turn to you, your Son, who gave his life on the cross for us and rose again after 3 days. We ask for continued protection over our president, over the leaders on the front lines who continue to battle this enemy, to battle the enemy of the people, the mainstream media, and others. And we ask that you continue to guide and direct the hand of those who are out there with small voices doing everything they can to get the truth out, to wake people up day after day. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your guiding hand. Bring all this to you in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Folks, thank you for tuning in. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. We have a big week ahead of us. We've got a lot more to cover tomorrow and many days forward. So much going on behind the scenes, and we certainly are seeing wonderful, wonderful things playing out for the future for all of us this year. For now, it's LT Semper Fi with And We Know, signing out.
And in support of a request from the Department of Justice, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro.
Nicolas Maduro had his chance until he didn't. He effed around and he found out.
This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history.
Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, you know, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. But don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well.